They fired one bullet after another, but it didn't feel the slightest. They even used anti-tank weapons, causing part of the body, organs, and blood of 096 to be gone. But it was still able to move forward and destroy the entire team. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you a SCP Foundation Euclid class object SCP-096. SCP-096 is a humanoid creature measuring approximately 2.38 meters in height. SCP-096 shows very little muscle mass, with a preliminary analysis of body mass suggesting mild malnutrition. Arms are grossly out of proportion with the rest of the subject's body, with an approximate length of 1.5 meters each. It has no sign of any body hair, its skin is mostly devoid of pigmentation, and it probably doesn't have pupils either. Other facial features remain similar to an average human, with the exception of the eyes. SCP-096's jaw can open to 4 times the norm of an average human. It shows no signs of any higher brain functions and is not considered to be sapient. SCP-096 is normally extremely docile, with pressure sensors inside its cell indicating it spends most of the day pacing by the eastern wall, and it doesn't seem to need food. Based on its response, the researchers are determined that 096 is very shy. It tries to stay as far to humans as possible. However, when someone views SCP-096's face, we'll call this person SCP-096-1. Whether it be directly, via video recording, or even a photograph, it will enter a stage of considerable emotional distress. SCP-096 will cover its face with its hands and begin screaming, crying, and babbling incoherently. Approximately 1 to 2 minutes after the viewing, SCP-096 will begin running towards SCP-096-1. It moves at 35 kilometers an hour and seems to depend on distance from SCP-096-1. If it is very far away, it will be able to run very fast. The actual position of SCP-096-1 does not seem to affect SCP-096's response. It seems to have an innate sense of SCP-096-1's location. Upon arriving at SCP-096-1's location, SCP-096 will proceed to attack and kill SCP-096-1. 100% of cases have left no traces of SCP-096-1. SCP-096 will then sit down for several minutes before regaining its composure and becoming docile once again. Then the Foundation staff will take it back to the SCP shelter. The most extreme case at present is that someone saw only a part of its picture and was also killed by it. At this point, no known material or method can impede SCP-096's progress. In one of the audio recordings, the former commander of the recovery team said, even if they were firing it intensely, but it didn't feel anything at all. They even used anti-tank weapons, causing part of the body, organs, and blood of 096 to be gone. But it was still able to move forward and destroy the entire team. Besides, because it does not cover its face when it's running towards its target, anyone who sees it will be killed by it along the way. Due to the possibility of a mass chain reaction, including breach of Foundation secrecy and large civilian loss of life, a doctor of the Foundation has also petitioned for immediate termination of SCP-096. The Foundation has carried out several execution experiments, one of which is to send the containment tank containing SCP-096 into SCP-682's cell. SCP-682 is a large, vaguely reptile-like creature of unknown origin. It has a powerful regeneration ability and adaptability, and also has the title of Immortal Body. If you want to know more about SCP-682, do click on this video. So back to the execution experiment. The screams of the two entities continue for 27 hours, at which point the noise abruptly stops. Sonar-based video feeds reveal SCP-096 severely wounded and huddled in the southwest corner, apparently upset. Feed shows SCP-682 on the north end of the room, approximately 85% of its initial mass absent. Further attempts to expose SCP-096 to SCP-682 cause it to turn away from 682, jumping in place while clawing at its face and screaming. Because 096 will only attack when people see its face, so the Foundation has long housed it in an airtight steel cube. There are to be absolutely no video surveillance or optical tools of any kind inside SCP-096's cell. Any and all photos, videos, or recordings of SCP-096's likeness are strictly forbidden. But it's said that an abstract painting or its cartoon image is not prohibited because it won't stimulate the emotional distress reaction of 096. Then, John heard the worst sound any human being had ever heard, a sneeze, coming from 6 inches behind his head. For a second, John remembered an episode of Mythbusters he had seen before being arrested, before coming here, where they tested to see if someone could sneeze with his eyes open. And yep, he never saw the end. There was a sick, wet thud, a horrible ripping sound, and a scream that ended too quickly. John didn't even have a chance to turn around and look over. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you a SCP Foundation Euclid class object, SCP-173. SCP-173 is animate and extremely hostile. It moved to the SCP Foundation in 1993, but its origins are unknown to this day. SCP-173 is constructed from concrete and rebar with traces of Krylon brand spray paint. SCP-173 is completely still while in an organism's field of vision, only moving when it isn't being watched, even if the observer simply blinks or barely looks off the object. Just when the observer blinks, SCP-173 will make a grindstone sound and move forward a short distance quickly. Despite the fact that it is a statue, SCP-173 can move fast enough to travel several feet in the time it takes for the human eye to reopen after blinking. It can literally move faster than the blink of an eye. It will advance towards its target until it is in range, then snaps its victim's neck. Object is reported to attack by snapping the neck at the base of the skull, or by strangulation. SCP-173 is apparently strong enough to snap the neck of a fully grown man almost instantly, although exactly how it does this is unknown. However, the creature is rendered completely immobile for as long as it's in an organism's sight. Therefore, personnel assigned to enter container are instructed to alert one another before blinking. Personnel report sounds of scraping stone originating from within the container when no one is present inside. However, this is considered normal. The reddish-brown substance on the floor is a combination of feces and blood, but so far, the source of these materials is still unknown. And due to the increasing amount of reddish-brown material, its enclosure must be cleaned on a bi-weekly basis. Being constructed of concrete and rebar, SCP-173 is incredibly durable, able to hold itself in a fight against SCP-682. SCP-682 is a massive reptilian beast with almost unlimited regenerative powers that is widely considered the most adaptive and durable SCP the Foundation contains. If you want to know more about SCP-682, you can click on this video in the upper right corner. Back to 173. So the Foundation personnel arranged a battle with 682 in order to test the durability of 173. And from that day on, it inspires great fear in 682. Because SCP-173 is an extremely dangerous object, hence is to be kept in a locked container at all times. When personnel must enter SCP-173's container, no fewer than 3 may enter at any time, and the door is to be relocked behind them. At all times, 2 persons must maintain direct eye contact with SCP-173 until all personnel have vacated and relocked the container. And now, probably the scariest thing is that 173 seems to have started its reproduction. Here's one of the recordings of personnel's in 173's containment. "What are you looking at?" John Avery, presently known as D-5933, shouted at the other D-Class personnel in the cell. "SCP-173, what are you looking at?" came the reply. This worried John, as he was staring intently at SCP-173, and the other D-Class personnel was standing behind John, facing the other direction. Then, John heard the worst sound any human being had ever heard, a sneeze, coming from 6 inches behind his head. For a second, John remembered an episode of Mythbusters he had seen before being arrested, before coming here, where they tested to see if someone could sneeze with his eyes open. And yep, he never saw the end. There was a sick, wet thud, a horrible ripping sound, and a scream that ended too quickly. John didn't even have a chance to turn around and look over. From SCP-173's Addendum 1, it was written that SCP-173 appeared to multiply, producing 2 identical copies. 2 D-Class personnel were killed. It is unknown how this process occurred. Each instance of SCP-173, now labeled SCP-173-1 and SCP-173-2, is to be moved to individual cells, each following original containment procedures. In Addendum 2, it was noted down that a second multiplication event occurred. SCP-173-1 through 4 are to be each contained as per original containment procedures. Objects reclassed as Keter. And in the Addendum 3, at least 61 copies of SCP-173 are as of now unaccounted for. It is unknown how they replicated so fast, or how they replicate at all. Video evidence of the containment breach shows multiple instances of SCP-173 working in unison across multiple cells to achieve the breach. Most of the instances still in captivity appear to have formed a rear guard, blocking Foundation agents from pursuing other instances. It is theorized that SCP-173 has a hive intelligence, where intelligence scales with number of nearby copies. SCP-173 has caused a breach of secrecy for the SCP Foundation. Estimates at this time are roughly 500,000 civilian deaths across North America in the last 48 hours due to SCP-173, and hundreds of thousands of sightings and pieces of video evidence. Major television news programs have obtained video of SCP-173 and are providing instructions for avoiding instant death. And following saturation nuclear bombing on number of SCP-173 instances has been reduced. SCP-049 has expressed frustration or remorse after these killings, indicating that they have done little to kill the pestilence, though will usually seek to then perform a crude surgery on the corpse. These surgeries are often result in the creation of instances of SCP-0492. So this so-called plague doctor, how many was it really kills? And how terrifying will it be? Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you a SCP Foundation Euclid class object, SCP-049. In SCP Foundation, which SCP is your favorite? Let us know in the comment below. SCP-049 is a humanoid entity, roughly 1.9 meters in height, weight 95.3 kilograms, which bears the appearance of a medieval plague doctor. While it appears to be wearing the thick robes and the ceramic mask indicative of that profession, the garments instead seem to have grown out of its body over time, and are now nearly indistinguishable from whatever form is beneath them. X-rays indicate that despite this, 049 does have a humanoid skeletal structure beneath its outer layer. While SCP-049 is generally cordial and cooperative with Foundation staff, it can become especially irritated or, at times, outright aggressive if it feels that it is in the presence of what it calls the pestilence. 049 will become hostile with individuals it sees as being affected by the pestilence. If left unchecked, it will generally attempt to kill any such individual. It is capable of causing all biological functions of an organism to cease through direct skin contact. How this occurs is currently unknown. There was one record show 049 quickly closed the distance between the subject, killing the subject with a touch of its throat. 049 has expressed frustration or remorse after these killings, indicating that they have done little to kill the pestilence, though will usually seek to then perform a crude surgery on the corpse using the implements contained within a black doctor's bag it carries on its person at all times. While these surgeries are not always successful, they often result in the creation of instances of 0492. 0492 instances are reanimated corpses that have been operated on by 049. These instances do not seem to retain any of their prior memories or mental functions, having only basic motor skills and response mechanisms. While these instances are generally inactive, moving very little, and in a generally ambulatory fashion, they can become extremely aggressive if provoked, or if directed to by 049. Despite these alterations, 049 often remarks that the subjects have been cured. SCP-049 was discovered during the investigation of a series of unknown disappearances in the town of Montauban in southern France. During a raid on a local home, investigators found several instances of 0492 as well as 049. While law enforcement personnel engaged the hostile 0492 instances, it was noted as watching the engagement and taking notes in its journal. After all of the 0492 instances were dispatched, 049 willingly entered Foundation custody. 049 has spent a considerable amount of time studying and performing surgery on the various mammalian corpses it has been provided. It will routinely spend several days performing surgery, and then, regardless of whether or not the corpse becomes an instance of 0492, spending several more days documenting its findings in a thick leather journal stored within its doctor's bag. It will often seek to share its findings with members of Foundation staff. According to one record, 049 spent several days operating on the orangutan, reanimating it several times. However, 049 appeared to be discontent with the results it experienced, returning to the creature 3 times after its initial reanimation for additional work. After it was unable to reanimate the corpse a 5th time, 049 turned the corpse over to Foundation staff for incineration. As time goes by, on April 16, 2017, as Dr. Raymond Ham was entering SCP-049's test chamber to conduct another routine interview, the entity began to grow anxious and asked Dr. Ham if he was feeling well. Following protocol, Dr. Ham reminded 049 that the interview was required, after which the entity became hostile and attacked Dr. Ham, killing him. Due to a lapse in security protocol and because Dr. Ham did not activate the in-chamber emergency system, Dr. Ham's corpse was not discovered until 3 hours later, by which point 049 had converted it into an instance of 0492. SCP-682 begins thrashing violently, emitting several roaring sounds and issuing profanity directed at testing staff. Finally, 682 breaks containment, attack against several agents, staff, and researchers, resulting in 11 deaths and 86 injuries. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Class Object Kita, SCP-682. SCP-682 is one of the most popular in SCP Foundation. 682 is a large, vaguely reptile-like creature of unknown origin, famous for traits that are almost impossible to be destroyed. It appears to be extremely intelligent and was observed to engage in complex communication with other SCP. 682 appears to have a hatred of all life, which has been expressed in several interviews during containment. 682 has always been observed to have extremely high strength, speed, and reflexes, though exact levels vary with its form. Its physical body grows and changes very quickly, growing or decreasing in size as it consumes or sheds material, and can gain energy from anything it ingests, organic or inorganic. 682's regenerative capabilities and resilience are staggering, and it has been seen moving and speaking with its body 87% destroyed or rotted. When being asked why it kills those innocent farmers, it refused to answer at first, but after forced to answer by a doctor, 682 assault one of the personnel, and answer they were disgusting. Due to the highly aggressive, adaptive, and intelligent nature of 682, termination testing has been ordered by Foundation. The only problem is, the number of termination testing have been conducted close to 100, yet none of them have been success. Among the many execution records, the most classic of which is the attempt to use SCP-409 on 682. 409 is a very dangerous quartz crystal. Any objects coming in contact with 409 will begin to crystallize after 3 hours. After complete crystallization, the object will bursting into thousands of fragments with great force. Upon exposure, 682's crystallization begins. It shows signs of extreme pain and begins having seizures, but the crystallization stops at 62% conversion with unknown reason. Its crystallized area explodes, causing massive physical trauma to 682. 1 hour later, 682 recovers from exposure, despite the loss of limbs and organs. It begins regeneration, stating that it will attempt to kill and consume all staff involved in this event. Due to the failure of SCP-409, major concerns raised about possible developed immunities and possible adaptations. All future termination tests must first be carried out on tissue samples taken from 682. In another termination testing, 682 quickly presses against the wall farthest from SCP-173, staring at it the entire time. SCP-173 cannot move while within a direct line of sight, but once the line of sight is broken, it will move in high speed and attack by snapping the neck of the victim. 682 continues to stare at 173 without pause for 6 hours. Realize this situation, agents equipped with large caliber sniper rifles dispatched and shoot out the eyes of 682. After resuming observation, 682 is shown to be on the floor, with several injuries around its head, neck, and legs. It rapidly regenerates from damage and moves to a different wall, developing several sets of eyes on various parts of its body, many covered by thick, clear caps of armored carapace. 682 maintains observation of 173 for an additional 12 hours, despite additional efforts of agents and Foundation staff. At the end, Foundation staff have no other way but to end this testing. Termination testing with SCP-162 has once again proved the exceptional vitality and adaptability of 682. Touching SCP-162 will immediately result in several hooks becoming embedded in the subject's skin. Subject will bleed profusely, resulting in death after a prolonged period of time. 682 exposed to 162. It begins thrashing violently, emitting several roaring sounds and issuing profanity directed at testing staff. After 4 minutes of continued exposure, 682 lunges away from SCP-162, severing its lower jaw and left hind limb, and causing serious tissue damage to many areas of its body. 682 breaks containment, attack against several agents, staff, and researchers, resulting in 11 deaths and 86 injuries. So we know at this time, no means available to SCP teams are capable of destroying SCP-682, only able to cause massive physical damage. 682 should be contained within chamber filled with hydrochloric acid until it is submerged and incapacitated. Police discovered 053 in the deceased bodies of the couple within the same room. Madeline had died from multiple stab wounds inflicted by Andrew, who had died from a massive heart attack. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today we bring you SCP Foundation Euclid Class Object SCP-053. SCP-053, also known as the Young Girl, is a small 3-year-old girl. She is capable of basic speech and appears to be slightly above average in terms of mental development. Her personality is generally pleasant, and she rarely seems to get upset. However, she will appear agitated when in a large group. Any and all humans over the age of 3 who engage in eye contact and physical touch, or those who remain around 053 for longer than 10 minutes, rapidly become irrational, paranoid, and homicidal. Most, if not all, of these feelings will be directed at 053, and afflicted subjects will attempt to kill 053 after first killing or driving off all humans visible to them. Those attempting to kill 053 will suffer massive heart attacks or seizures and die seconds after inflicting physical damage to 053. However, 053 has a healing factor that allows her to regenerate almost instantaneously from any wound. According to a recovery log, SCP-053 was discovered on July 10, 2008 in Pennsylvania at the residence of Andrew and Madeline. Police who attempted to interact with 053 also suffered from 053's anomalous effects, resulting in 5 additional casualties before implanted Foundation agents assessed the situation and properly secured the subject. Class A amnestic drugs were administered to all non-personnel involved, including Andrew's parents in Florida, as they had been exposed to information regarding SCP-053 through communication with Andrew. Since June 5, 2004, Andrew had been sending his mother news and updates on SCP-053. They named her as Abby. Below is the documentation log from 4 years ago, first email about Abby, to July 10, 2008, the last email sent out by Andrew to his mother. June 5, 2004. Hey Mom, sorry I haven't emailed you throughout the past month. Things have been pretty busy, but I have great news. You're gonna be a grandma. We found out yesterday that Maddie's pregnant, and we've already started turning the guest room into a baby room. Good thing I got a pay raise last week. We gotta think of the baby now. Hope to hear from you soon. March 7th, 2005. It's a girl. She was born last night around 10 at night. Madeline's water broke as she was going to sleep. We drove to the hospital so fast, I think I almost hit someone. Jesus, waiting for the doctors to deliver her felt like years. Now, as I type this email, she's downstairs, fast asleep in Maddie's arms. We named her Abby, and she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I'll send pictures soon. March 8th, 2006. Hey Mom, Abby's first birthday was yesterday. Howard and Rachel even showed up. Got to see their niece for the first time. Too bad you and Dad are all the way down in Florida. We'll have to visit when Abby's older. Love you. June 24th, 2008. There's been an accident. We were at the playground and we took our eyes off of her for 1 second, and she fell off of the jungle gym and landed on her head. I saw blood. The doctor said she'll recover fine, but I can't sleep. It is all my fault. June 25th, 2008. The hospital called and said that Abby will have to stay there for a few more days, but she's all patched up and on the fast track to recovery. No brain damage or anything, it seems. I'm just glad my baby is gonna be okay. July 2nd, 2008. Mom, there's something wrong with Abby. I mean, she looks and acts perfectly fine, but I know something isn't right with her. Madeline says she feels it too. We started feeling it after Abby's injury at the playground. We've had the doctors look her over, but as far as they're concerned, they couldn't identify any permanent damage, physical or mental. But I just know there's something wrong with her. July 5th, 2008. We got an email from Dr. Williams today. He says that he's been able to identify problems exist in Abby, but he can't determine if they're physical or mental. It just doesn't make any sense, he says. He claimed that whenever he was around her, he couldn't shake the feeling of wrongness. The staff who were working with him agreed, apparently. He didn't tell us at first because he didn't want Maddie and I to worry, but it appears that he just couldn't keep quiet any longer. What's wrong with my daughter? July 9th, 2008. I can't even look at Abby for more than a few seconds at a time now. There's something about her now, and it just shouldn't be. When I'm around her, I just get this awful, indescribable feeling, like I'd rather be anywhere else but next to my own daughter. I try and limit my interaction with her as much as I possibly can. It's terrible. But being around her, it makes me want to throw up. It's inside of her, in her eyes, in her skin, everything about her. I just don't know what it is. July 10th, 2008. I touched her hand. It felt so wrong. Madeline said she felt it too, but she believes that it's something inside of her. I'm gonna kill them both. I'm gonna kill that, and I'm gonna kill that thing. It needs to die. After receiving the last email, Andrew's mother quickly phoned the local police to check on his son. Soon after, police discovered 053 and the deceased bodies of the couple within the same room. Madeline had died from multiple stab wounds inflicted by Andrew, who had died from a massive heart attack shortly afterward, believed to have been caused by 053's anomalous effects. Following this incident, 053 was contained by the Foundation. 053 is to be contained in an area no less than 5 by 5 meters and given adequate room to move. Toys, books, games, and other recreational devices are to be provided and rotated every 3 months. Proper bedding, bathroom, and medical facilities are to be maintained at all times. In addition, 053 is also given 3 meals a day, alongside snacks if requested. Anyone who enters her chamber must wear an eye-covering suit for safety concerns. And while gifts from her are allowed to be accepted, they must be removed from the room. Only one person is allowed in her room in any given instance, and they are only permitted to stay for no longer than 10 minutes. Any sharp objects or firearms are banned from her room, and anyone who begins to act erratically, scream, or attempt to grab 053 are to be removed and quarantined. In a termination test, the Foundation introduced SCP-682 to SCP-053. 682 appeared to be very confused and showed no signs of being affected by 053. Initially, 053 appeared to be afraid of 682 and hid behind a chair in her containment area. 682 then lowered itself to the ground, resting its head on the floor, and spoke after a while. 053 approached 682. And after several seconds of hesitation, she briefly touched SCP-682 before quickly returning to her hiding place. 682 had no reaction. 053 approached 682 and pat its head, causing it to exhale through its forward nostrils. SCP-053 clapped and hopped in place several times before embracing the head of SCP-682. For the remainder of the testing period, 682 did not feel frustrated by spending time with this small child like he did in every other test. He understood that the child was a hated thing as well, one that had suffered like him. They were alike in that way. He had attempted to break out a few times anyways, to find out where the disgusting researchers were watching from and find out if they had hurt her as they had him. This had, however, frightened 053. So, for the time being, he allowed himself to be decorated with a cowboy hat that was too small. Although he appreciated how oddly pleasant and relaxing it was when her tiny arms hugged his scarred, scaly back
and demanded to be carried around. Eventually, 053 grew tired, yawning and rubbing her eyes with tiny fists. 682 lifted the child carefully in his teeth by the back of her shirt and carried her off to bed, placing her gently on the mattress and circling the bed once, twice, 3 times before curling around her in a protective little ring. Soon enough, 053 was fast asleep, and he was her new protector.
And just at that moment, SCP-106 steps out of an adjacent wall and wraps an arm around Agent Musker's neck and drags her, screaming, back into the wall with it. Moments later, the floor beneath Agent Alum begins to dissolve, and he slowly descends into SCP-106's pocket dimension. Not sure if they were frustrated or happy that they could finally see 106, they gave out hysterical laughter. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you a SCP Foundation Keter class object, SCP-106. SCP-106, also known as The Old Man, appears to be an elderly humanoid with a general appearance of advanced decomposition. This appearance may vary, but the rotting quality is observed in all forms. 106 is not exceptionally agile and will remain motionless for days at a time, waiting for prey. Basically, if 106 has any reduction in activity or an increase in compliance, it should be treated as an inducement strategy prior to its active action and should be dealt with on this premise. 106 is also capable of scaling any vertical surface and can remain suspended upside down indefinitely. When attacking, it will attempt to incapacitate prey by damaging major organs, muscle groups, or tendons, then pull disabled prey into its pocket dimension. 106 appears to prefer human prey items in the 10 to 25 years of age bracket. SCP-106 causes a corrosion effect in all solid matter it touches, engaging a physical breakdown in materials several seconds after contact. This is observed as rusting, rotting, and cracking of materials, and the creation of a black, mucus-like substance similar to the material coating SCP-106. This effect is particularly detrimental to living tissues and is assumed to be a pre-digestion action. Corrosion continues for 6 hours after contact, after which the effect appears to burn out. 106 is capable of passing through solid matter, leaving behind a large patch of its corrosive mucus. It is able to vanish inside solid matter, entering what is assumed to be a form of pocket dimension. It is then able to exit this dimension from any point connected to the initial entry point. For example, entering the inner wall of a room and exiting the outer wall, or entering a wall and exiting from the ceiling. In a record of 106's escape, as Agent Alum and Musker were joking about how they'll never know when they would be getting close to 106. And just at that moment, SCP-106 steps out of an adjacent wall and wraps an arm around Agent Musker's neck and drags her, screaming, back into the wall with it. Moments later, the floor beneath Agent Alum begins to dissolve, and he slowly descends into SCP-106's pocket dimension. Not sure if they were frustrated or happy that they could finally see 106, they gave out hysterical laughter. SCP-106 will typically enter a dormant state after finishing with a lure subject. During this phase, it will remain completely motionless for up to 3 months. The cause for this is unknown. SCP-106 will emerge from this state in a very agitated state and will attack and abduct staff and cause gross damage to its containment cell and the site at large. SCP-106 appears to hunt and attack based on desire, not hunger. SCP-106 will attack and collect multiple prey items during a hunting behavior event, keeping many alive in the pocket dimension for extended periods of time. 106 has no determinable limit and appears to collect a random number of prey items during an event. The inner dimension accessed by SCP-106 appears to be only accessible by SCP-106. It appears that SCP-106 will play with captured prey and appears to have full control of time, space, and perception inside this dimension. It is said that the prey dragged into the pocket dimension will not die, even if it is corroded inside and outside. SCP-106 will throw it out once it's bored of it. In the event of a breach event by SCP-106, a human within the 10 to 25 years of age bracket will be prepared for recall, with the compromised containment cell being replaced and restored for use. When the cell is ready, the lure subject will be injured, preferably via the breakage of a long bone, such as the femur, or the severing of a major tendon, such as the Achilles tendon. Lure subject will then be placed in the prepped cell, and the sound emitted by said subject will be transmitted over the site public address system. SCP-106 will typically begin to gravitate toward the lure subject within 10 to 15 minutes after hearing the subject. Should 106 not respond to the initial broadcast, additional physical trauma is to be administered to the lure subject at 20-minute intervals until 106 responds. This is a picture of a Foundation personnel after being released by 106. This person disappeared for 2 hours and lived an hour after his release. Suddenly, SCP-3199 jumped right at one of the personnel. They barely had time to react before it escaped from the corridor. They fired off enough rounds to blow a chunk out of its chest. 3199 let out the most awful scream. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Keter Class Object SCP-3199. SCP-3199, also known as human, is a sentient humanoid species of a currently unknown biological origin, though tissue samples suggest traces of domestic chicken and chimpanzee DNA. 3199 is hairless, stained with a thin layer of albumin, and stand at an average of 2.9 meters. A matured 3199 weighs around 780 kilograms, and a hatchling weighs at 360 kilograms. The necks of 3199 appear dislocated and are capable of twisting approximately 340 degrees, presumably due to the nature of 3199's reproductive cycle. SCP-3199 is an opportunistic hunter, engaging with live subjects within a radius of 0.6 kilometers surrounding hatchlings that have not yet reached full adolescence. Its average speed is recorded at 25 kilometers per hour. Upon contact with human or animal subjects, 3199 will kill them, liquefying their internal organs and bone structure. The cadaver is then given to the young and utilized as a form of nourishment. Instances of 3199 have been observed producing large eggs of an off-white coloration and rubbery appearance. These eggs will pass through its stomach, esophagus, and eventually extract via the mouth, followed by a highly corrosive red substance. SCP-3199 shows extreme distress throughout the entire process, with SCP's personnel describing the sound as not dissimilar to a scream. Presumably, due to a biologically ingrained method of avoiding extinction, SCP-3199 will always produce its eggs to fill all available space. This anomalous property currently has no known limit, and as a result may pose an LK-class species transmutation scenario. Termination of 3199 can be performed with relative ease. However, a complete eradication is currently difficult, as all instances of 3199, regardless of age, will always carry one egg inside their stomach to ensure survival for at least one member of their species at all times. The eggs from 3199 have proven to be extremely resilient. Experiments shows the egg sample lacking visible signs of damage after subjection to extreme blunt force trauma, extensive pressure exceeding 180,000 psi, high-precision blades, and even long-term acid exposure. Use of point-blank explosives was suggested, but never tested, because heat exposure has been determined to accelerate hatch rates, and thus detonation may run the risk of a containment breach. During the intense heat exposure experiment, an egg sample from 3199 was secured in a containment cell that gradually increased its temperature at an average rate of 7 degrees Celsius per minute. After approximately 9 minutes, the egg ruptured violently and produced a single hatchling. On-site personnel reacted swiftly, trying to recontain the newborn instance. However, the excessive internal temperature impacted the physical growth of the young instance, and it reached adolescence at an accelerated rate of 40 seconds. As a result, it produced 2 further instances of 3199. On-site security response was swift, and all 3 instances were detained. All future heat testing involving 3199 egg samples has been forbidden until further notice. In the liquid nitrogen bath experiment, an egg sample was submerged entirely in liquid nitrogen. After approximately 45 minutes of exposure, SCP-3199 had reached negative 190 degrees Celsius. Following 2 hours of exposure, the egg sample was removed, and placed under extreme pressure. As a result, hydraulic press peaked at pressures of around 9,000 psi. Cracks appeared 30 minutes into exposure, before the samples shattered. Egg fragments were collected and furthermore pressed into a fine pulp. 0 traces of albumin or yolk were located. Incineration of these remains proved successful at destroying the egg in its entirety. SCP-3199 was discovered in Ireland after reports of an unidentified, bald creature crying like a banshee from within a dense woodland resulted in the dispatching of MTF Omega-19. MTF Omega-19 arrived around 2100 hours. They were told that if they could not catch 3199, the next best thing would be snapping a frame or two. Then the Foundation hooked them up with the best night vision hardware. An hour later, they found a shack made from scrap metal and wood. It looked a lot like an oversized chicken coop. The team then entered the shack. Suddenly, SCP-3199 jumped right at one of the personnel. They barely had time to react before it escaped from the corridor. They fired off enough rounds to blow a chunk out of its chest. 3199 let out the most awful scream. Unfortunately, 2 personnel lost their lives during the action. Their internal organs and jaws were almost entirely dissolved. During transportation back to Site-114, 3199 produced 2 more offspring, resulting in the deaths of another 6 personnel. On 2017, the Foundation did a thorough sweep of 3199's initial recovery location. It was performed to uncover any further information regarding their origin. Locals claimed that the small remote residence in question has been established in the woods for several years. Surface Team D-029 managed to recover several items of interest, including 1 bag of assorted thread and needles, 3 chicken feather quills, 13 chicken carcasses with precise incisions located on the underbelly, neck, and thigh. Unbelievably, 6 of the carcasses had been plucked, with visible human teeth marks lining the bare areas seemingly at random. The team also recovered several containers, including water bottles and Tupperware boxes, holding an unidentified watery paste. The paste is deep brown in color, and when exposed to oxygen, it becomes viscous and hard. An A5 notebook, heavily scratched with human fingernails, was also found amongst the stuffs. The words, "Open when we are pure," are written on the front of the notebook. The notebook itself consisted of 24 pages of standard lined paper written in non-anomalous black ink. 19 of these pages consisted of various cuboid patterns and crude, childlike illustrations vaguely resembling SCP-3199. On the remaining 5 pages, large lines of writing detail the diary of an unnamed individual. Most of what was written was found totally illegible. However, one extract dated in 1973 was written with notably higher clarity, and quote, "If you're reading this, then lucky you. 1 millionth hour from not and it'll be fun. And the wonderful versatility of inferior human DNA will give birth to a new era. A stronger era. One where and food and water will be nothing but things of the past, as we make and make and make more for the better future. I really haven't much time. That's why I envy you so. You'll have all the time you need. Time will be on, and death will be life. New life changes lives and brings smiles like a freshness. New life will be a part of life from now on." The final page consisted of several ink blots, 13 instances of the word life in various sizes, and 2 instances of the words, "Didn't you want this?" SCP-3199 was issued Keter classification on June 10th of 2017, following the events of a containment breach. After the breaching incident, SCP-3199's original water containment method was disassembled and replaced with the current resin solution. Besides, Protocol 34-22-B poached will be carried out during the event of a breach. The following steps are the procedure of this protocol. On-site personnel with Level 1 security clearance or above initiate standard lockdown procedure and immediately move to Site-113 unless instructed otherwise. Site-114 is to be filled entirely with distilled water, treated with Class A sedatives. Then, Surface Team Tango 306-A will be notified and dispatched and instructed to retrieve any instances of SCP-3199's eggs. any living instances of 3199 will be terminated on site, and their remaining eggs will be collected. All egg samples are to be transported to temporary off-site containment. Site-114 will then be drained, and janitorial staff dispatched to thoroughly clean the area. Any personnel attempting to breach Site-114 before this inspection is complete will be apprehended and suspended accordingly. Some personnel have displayed skepticism regarding the necessity of this protocol. However, Dr. Watt believes that fluid is an excellent counter to 3199's anomalous reproductive properties. It appears to enter an inert state in the presence of liquid, regardless of thickness or clarity. There are two theories regarding this occurrence. First, SCP-3199's need for survival demands all of its attention to focus on not drowning. Second, SCP-3199 considers the liquid around it as full space, and as a result does not produce any egg when submerged.
We hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to click like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. Have a favorite SCP you want to see on this channel? Leave us your suggestions in the comments down below. In the meantime, if you'd like to see more SCP content, then check out some of our other videos right here. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye-bye!